Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to call the workshop to order. It's 5:04 on Thursday, the 14th of March. Our topic today is the draft of the lighting ordinance. And what I'm hoping we can do is just run through the city versus county copies and talk about any discrepancies and make any changes that we need. I'm really hoping we can get done with this tonight and get a public hearing on this and send this on to council. So I do have some minor differences between the two. If you want to, if I can start with that, and then we can go from there.
Sounds great.
Okay. So I'm going to reference the city one first. Obviously, everything in the city draft has county references to it, which need to be changed to City of Moab instead of Grand County. So that kind of follows throughout the entire document. There is a part on the third page under 15.28.020E. And it says, all existing outdoor lighting that does not meet the requirements of this chapter and is not exempted by this chapter shall be considered a non-conforming use or part of a non-conforming structure subject to amortization schedule outlined in section something, and we don't have that section.
Tell me exactly where you're at again.
So I'm on page 3, just above the bug lighting.
Mine doesn't say pages.
Mine doesn't either, but I labeled them.
Yeah.
So it's just above the bug light picture.
Okay.
E.
Are we looking at the same document?
I don't know.
No, I'm looking at a
Maybe not.
different one too. I'm looking at the
okay.
one that was linked to in our agenda from this week,
Okay, so let me get that one up.
which is GC Draft Lighting Ordinance 1.8.19 as recommended.
Okay, and so does your document start with, let me see it.
Yeah, where is it? Where'd it go? Oh my god, I have too many windows open. There we go. It starts proposed changes to land use code,
So I
outdoor
don't have
lighting,
that
and
at all,
sign
so
illuminations.
my notes are in trouble.
Because I have that provision roughly, it's in scope and applicability,
Right.
and it's C here, and it does have the section
Okay,
cross-referenced.
good, so I guess I have a very old one. Okay.
Yeah, this one still says county though, so your
Okay.
first,
So now where are we at? What page?
it's still page 3, it's on the bottom, it's C on page 3 of the one that we were given in our packet.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing I have is a small one, but under the definitions, under net acre.
Which is under the graphic showing CFL standard and halogen, it's easier to reference
So
that
we
way.
gotta go.
I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Oop, but I don't
Are
have
you
it.
going after C or before C?
Looking for
Open applicability
definitions.
section? Are we still on?
Definitions, 15.28.040.
Very different documents.
Wow,
I think it's
okay,
just-
then I may not be able to lead this conversation for very much longer.
Yeah, this is,
You guys have
I don't know if we were sent,
No, there's your definitions.
They're in section
And then I'm looking for-
6.63.
Yeah, net acre.
okay,
Net acre.
net acre.
I see that, yep.
It's a gross acre excluding rights of way, natural slopes greater than 30%, jurisdictional wetlands, lands in 100-year floodplain, public drinking water supply sources.
So yours does say 30% slopes? Okay, then that's set.
Lands affected by geohazard.
Okay.
You happy with that?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what version you have.
I don't have any idea. It might be one of the original ones that we looked at when it came across our desk
I think
months
it
ago.
is, because this one's
Okay.
2018, and then
Yeah.
what we have is
Okay.
the one
So
that
sorry,
passed.
Yeah, so
the county.
sorry I didn't update that. But
the
next one
recommended
is
from
lighting
county.
hours. And we've talked
Yeah,
about moving the
talked about
curfew
Yes.
down from midnight to 10.
Yes.
And, okay, that's 6.6.6 in the packet document, I think.
Yes.
Okay, right here says till 12 o'clock midnight.
Right, and we have talked about moving that down to 10 p.m. And we need to kind of come to a consensus on that.
My pitch for 10 p.m. is that the ordinance as written already provides for businesses that are open past that point. And I think a lot of the problem we have with nighttime lighting is gonna end up just being signs and illumination on businesses, just, you know, the stuff that they leave on at night just so people know they're there, which a lot of businesses already don't do. So I don't think we're gonna have, I don't foresee a ton of pushback from local businesses about this, just because a lot already do shut off all their lights and their signs and everything at night. But this would kind of cover anything that isn't safety of guests or customers, which again is a pretty wide standard as it's written. If you really have a concern, I think you can fit under that umbrella. And then things that are open past 10 p.m. are already provided for. So, yeah, that's my rationale for that.
Does that include advertising?
This is commercial establishments,
Yeah.
So businesses.
so businesses.
So if you have a business and you're closed at 10 o'clock or before 10 o'clock, you have to have, that sign's got to be out.
It says
The
shall turn
lights.
off all outdoor lighting except listed below by what we would say would be 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Unless you're open past 10, you can leave all outdoor lighting on until 1 hour after the close of business. Lighting to illuminate the entrance to the commercial establishment, or parking lot and pathway lighting required for safety of guests or customers.
Yeah.
So that would include their business sign?
That's what I call the advertising sign.
Yeah.
That would include the business sign.
Seems like that's going to get some pushback.
Yeah.
Well, it is just 2 hours from 10 to midnight, and the people
Wow.
who are out searching for businesses, are they really doing that at 11 o'clock at
But
night?
look at the ones that just
People
stay
that
on.
arrive late to town, yeah.
Yeah.
But if those businesses are open, those lights can still be on.
Yeah,
Oh, so like a hotel with a night auditor is
Right.
considered
Mhm.
open.
Right.
they're open, yep.
But if,
But that would be like a real estate office with an illuminated sign that
Right.
closes at 6 p.m. Their light
I see.
couldn't remain on after 10. Be something like that. But this wouldn't, I mean, hotels are open, you know,
24 hours a day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gas stations are
Okay.
open, the grocery store is open till midnight, they get to stay.
I mean, I like it.
Restaurants and bars can stay open.
I'm thinking that those who have a restaurant, they're going to want to have advertising on that sign even after 10 o'clock. Right? I mean, I'm just saying that
They might, yeah.
right,
I want to, so.
they shouldn't.
Hey, I'm
That's
against,
our purpose.
I'm for
right?
non-lighting,
That's our
I'll tell you
purpose,
that.
is to shut them down. So,
So they can still have lighting to illuminate the entrance to the establishment and parking lot and pathway lighting. Those are the exceptions.
That's safety type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you could see someone trying to pick a lock on
Sure.
a building or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we might very well get pushback over that. There will be a public hearing, you know.
Okay.
The council will be considering this, and if that's feedback, they can amend it.
mhm.
I'm comfortable leaving things a little more restrictive coming from us, though, because things tend to go the other way rather than,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
thinking
I'm
of
okay
what
with
would
it.
actually be effective in achieving a dark sky, and saying
Mhm.
by 10 o'clock that would be effective.
A service station that has, the office is closed,
yeah.
but you can use a credit card.
Their canopy
That's
lights are still on.
considered to be opened?
Mhm.
Yeah, their
Okay.
canopy lights
Yep.
are still be on. Becky, any comments?
When does it begin? When can they, I guess when they're open again?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just thinking out loud. No, I don't.
Okay, so are we okay with changing that to 10 p.m.?
Sure,
Yeah.
I am.
And
Yeah,
I'm okay with
majority.
that, but
Okay.
does that address public, like schools and that type of thing?
Just commercials,
Just
just
commercial?
commercial establishments.
So like the lights can be on at the school as long as people are at the
There.
school.
But what
And
if they're not, what if they're not at the school?
Well, I've talked to superintendent and all three
By 10
principals
o'clock.
about that, so we're working on that.
So that's not up in any of this.
6.6.6, section B says recreational lighting shall be turned off by 10 o'clock PM except to conclude a specific sporting event that is underway.
So
Yeah.
tennis
What
courts,
I'm more
track
talking
lights,
about-
football.
10 o'clock.
Parking lots that
Yeah.
are on all the time
And I've talked to the district about
Oh,
that, so we're working
This
on
says
that.
10 PM.
So I finally realized what's going on. You guys are looking at the county draft. I have an old city draft as well that I've been comparing it to, so that's where my
Okay.
other copy came from, so I apologize for that.
Do we wanna, which one do we wanna use at
They
the end
are,
of the day?
they are nearly the same,
Okay.
except the old city draft I have has the city code numbers in it. This is
Okay.
all county code number.
Got it,
So let's go off this one because you guys have this one.
okay.
Okay, so if we set the 10 o'clock curfew, back in special outdoor lighting conditions and standards, D5.
Which is 6.6.8 for us.
D5
Okay.
says the recreational or athletic facility shall extinguish lighting exempted by this section no later than 11 p.m. So should that also be 10 p.m.?
Or 1 hour after the end of play, whichever is earlier. I think 11 makes sense in that context because of the 1 hour after the end of play, whichever is earlier. If it were whichever is later, I think 10 would be fine. But I think 11 accounts. If something ends at 10, they can have it till 11. If it ends at 11, they can only have it till 11.
Okay.
And then that wouldn't be in conformance with the earlier provision otherwise, I don't think.
Yeah, the earlier was for residential and commercial, and this one applies to.
Oh, recreational.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
yep.
So I'm just trying to figure out whether we should match the 10 o'clocks or not, so I don't really have an opinion on this one.
Was that saying that 11 o'clock is the absolute shut-off?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't,
Because this goes on sometimes later, especially with special events.
Softball.
Huh?
Yeah, softball goes.
Yeah, sometimes goes till 2 in the morning. It works with local, but maybe not the other.
so can we change this to 10 o'clock and then say whichever is later? Or would that get us into
Well,
deeper
then they
trouble?
could play till midnight or
Well, but they're
whatever.
gonna play till midnight.
Yeah, they do.
It already says no later than 11 p.m. or 1 hour after the end of play. So if they end play at
Whichever is
midnight,
earlier, though.
So if they're playing at midnight, the lights go out at 11.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's the whichever is earlier language
Yeah.
that makes it different.
Why do they have to stipulate that? Why can't they just say 30 minutes after play or something like that? I mean, 1 hour is a long time after a game.
I like leaving it to 11 p.m. or half an hour after the end of play, period.
Or
not whichever is earlier.
Not whichever is earlier. I don't think that qualifier is necessary.
Yeah. So it automatically goes out at 11 if it's not being used. If it is being used, then it's 30 minutes after they finish. So if they finish at 2 in the morning, it goes out
perfect.
at 2:30.
I think we have to keep that, I think.
And again, do we need it
Do we
11
wanna
or
make it
10?
In that case, I'd be fine making it 10, so it conforms with
Yeah,
the rest.
I would too.
Okay, so recreational or athletic facility shall extinguish lighting exempted by this section no later than 10 p.m. or 1/2 hour
After the end of play.
after the end of play, period.
Yep.
And 1/2 hours should be late enough to get all your kids in coolers and chairs and everything
think
into your
so.
car. Okay. And that was about all I had. The last thing that I'd like to talk about is the very last section, 6.6.9. BC. Is it really going to take us 5 years to get all this done? And I know that the original draft said 7 years. I think. Jeanette, do you remember if that was 7 years? Been knocked down to 5. Is 5 going to be as early as we can get it?
Oh, I think so.
I think so.
Okay,
Reasonable.
I think legally we'd have trouble if
okay.
it's too long, unfortunately. I mean, ideally, right, we've talked about there's gonna be hopefully incentives, and the Dark Skies folks are gonna be doing a lot to get people to get their stuff in order earlier than that, but.
Okay.
Do they send a letter to all the businesses as soon as this is adopted? You know, to let them know they got 5 years?
I would hope so.
Or do they just wait till they read the paper?
David?
City manager?
Well, in a situation like this, it would be the smart move to do some notification ahead of that. Or, I mean, it may be in the paper at the same time, but, you know, to actually try to do some proactive outreach about the need to comply.
I would hope so.
We don't typically notice every possibly affected entity when there's a zone or an ordinance change, but in this kind of case, we could easily do some outreach.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have one more thing. Just above the 5-year cutoff there in Part A, about the immediate abatement
Which one again? Okay.
here. So on the copy that I have from both the city and the county, there's a question mark next to that 50%. And I'd like to talk about what that means. It says, if some kind of alteration, expansion, modification, reconstruction equals or exceeds 1,500 square feet of existing such improvements, whichever is less. And that whole paragraph, I think, is not very clear. And then we need to decide what that 50% means and if we should keep it.
Are they trying to suggest that if there's a remodel done and it reaches 50% of the occupancy work being done, for instance,
Then
that they
it's-
have to conform?
Then it's basically new construction and they have to conform.
If that's what it's saying, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
It's confusing.
It's
Kind of like a handicap
right.
situation. If they get too far in the remodel, they just will do it all.
Yeah, that paragraph is really unwieldy.
It is really bad. And I'm okay with the 1,500 square feet and I'm okay with the 50%. I just wish that it was not quite so clunky. David, can we leave that up to you?
Oh, to sort of try to recraft some language there?
Yeah.
Clean it up.
Yeah. I think the numbers are fine, but it's just not written in a way that makes any sense.
Okay.
You could even do like bullets with it, like.
Bullets is a really good idea. I like that. Just visually, it makes it a lot easier to read.
I mean, it's just bullet point.
Sure.
Just looks like,
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I have. And this again was comparing the old city draft to the current draft, county draft that you guys are looking at.
Yeah.
Just out of sheer curiosity, has there been some pushback already from some businesses?
I don't know.
Not that I know.
Talking about it?
Crystal,
Haven't heard
Okay.
anything?
could you step up for a minute? I do have a question or two for you. You want to state your name for us?
I'm Crystal White. I am a part of the Moab Dark Skies crew.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm totally, I think it's an awesome idea, and I'm 100% behind it. My question is that, there are several businesses that have been here for a while, and they've done some improvements that have actually made it worse.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm thinking there might be some pushback.
There probably will be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a given anytime you change anything.
Okay.
So you've worked closely with the county, and we have tried to match the county's plan.
Yeah.
Do you have any other suggestions for us?
No, I thought what you just said was better than what we suggested, so thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we should be thinking about or talking about before we pass this on?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
there's been a lot of consulting and I think it's
Yeah.
really well thought out, so.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And you guys obviously get it, so.
Okay.
Any other questions or?
I don't think so. So did you guys notice anything in the draft, the county draft, that we would need to talk about?
Can I ask one thing on the 5-year? Does that, the whole entire ordinance conforms that for 5 years?
For the entire city?
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the county stick with 7?
No, this draft we have is 5
It's 5.
for the county, which
Yeah.
I was glad to see.
Yeah.
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 Can you talk about a bonus or anything for like the first business to retrofit or the first new business to comply, or?
I know that Moab Dark Skies is planning on doing, we're trying to figure out how to come up with some money to do some rebates for people that retrofit. I
Cool.
think that's mostly for residents, not businesses. But it's definitely something that could, if someone could find the money, that would be beneficial for sure.
Yeah. I guess, is it gonna be up to business owners to figure out if they are or aren't in compliance themselves? Or is there gonna be some sort of city, like, consultant person who can come and, like, evaluate?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
I also work for your sustainability office with Rosemary.
And where?
With Rosemary.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I'm actually going around and talking to them and offering
Cool.
a free assessment.
Oh, yeah, cause that's huge.
Wow, it
Yeah.
is big, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's up to them if they want the assessment
Awesome.
or not, but I'm not gonna force it on anyone, but
yeah,
it's offered. And we're actually thinking about writing an article for the paper that
that'd be,
states that as
I think that'd be really,
That
really
would be
good.
awesome.
And,
Yeah.
and there are supposed to be audits from the city for compliance. I don't know who's gonna do those, but they are in the code.
I think right now it's labeled
With
as,
all of our excess
if
stuff.
there is a complaint, then there will be follow-up.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
that'll be basically the way it'll.
You know, even if there was a plaque, they could put on their door that said that this business,
Dark sky compliance.
That's what the sustainability office is working on.
Yeah.
Like, they've already got it for the green to gold, so this will just kind of fit right into the green to gold program. And it's a dark sky component, so they'll get a badge for the dark sky stuff. as
That's
well.
cool.
cool.
Awesome.
I've had a lot of
Thank you.
positive comments about my sticker, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Spread them around, spread them around, and if you need more, just let us know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I forget who was asking me where I got it. If I remember, I will let you know.
Yeah, there's a bunch up in the sustainability office now.
Oh, it was
We're
Sarah,
not
it was
done.
Sarah Stock was asking me where I
Yeah,
got it.
She has,
Okay,
Rosemary has a bunch of.
okay, sweet.
So my 18-year-old senior in high school goes, where did you get that sticker? That's going on my water bottle. It was
Nice.
Annie, so it was cool. It was like, cool thing, you
I don't think I
know?
was either.
So
She
we
hasn't
need
noticed that I
everybody
have
to
one
think it's a
too.
cool thing, and then we have more voices.
We're
when
not
there is
gonna
pushback.
address this one.
Yeah, I mean,
They somehow they
my
take it.
thoughts on this, just for the record, it's like, you all know I like objective standards, and this sets some, and it doesn't leave it to the place of speculation or, oh, that looks really bright, but is it really bright, and is it doing the right thing, and just sort of word of mouth, which I don't think is helpful. And this actually says, if there is a complaint, X, Y, and Z will happen, rather than just being like, well, maybe that's a little brighter, you know. So
Yeah.
I think we need something like this just generally in our code to just have standards. So
Yeah, and I think, I believe, last time I talked with the Moab Dark Skies folks, we're gonna buy a meter, light meter, that actually will
Oh,
tell
cool.
how many lumens. So
Awesome.
if business owners really wanna know, we can actually measure it.
wow.
And I've noticed now that the bulbs are switched, like when you go into the hardware store,
Uh-huh.
now they list lumens,
Huh.
which is really great.
Yeah.
So with the lumen limit, it's getting there
Cool.
in the packaging, so. that's
Rather
helpful.
than just watts or
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's good news all the way around.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for everything you do.
Sure. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So any other comments or any other additions or subtractions we need to make from this plan?
It's like I like what the county. You're right about the code provisions where we need to match to city code. I like the county version seems a bit more streamlined than our original document as far as graphics and then just the way that everything is laid out. I do like that. I think it's a little, that paragraph we flagged for David aside, a little
Yeah.
more
And
user friendly.
they are 85% of it is exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, even format wise, so it's not that big of an issue, I hope. So. Anything else? Okay, so we'd like to set up a public hearing for this as soon as we can
Okay.
and move this on.
We'll get it teed up.
Good. Okay, so we have 34 minutes, 32 minutes to do as we wish. Do you want to give us a staff update? Can we do
Sure.
that here?
I would love to.
That'd be awesome.
I would love to do that, and we can certainly, you can ask me anything. you want. I will just say, I got a few things for you. First of all, as most of you probably know, the city formally hired a new city planning director, Nora Shepard. She is scheduled to begin next month. She's currently looking for a place to live, shockingly. So she, but is definitely on board, and we're excited to have her. She comes with a ton of experience from a number of jurisdictions, including Park Cities, back in the 80s and 90s in Summit County. Worked at Salt Lake City, and has been at Saratoga Springs for the last year or so. So she and her husband and their 2 small dogs are super excited to come down. So we're really happy about that. You probably have been following the planned affordable developments with the city council. The upshot is that it looked like the only way they were going to get to a majority vote on it was if the R2 was removed from the ordinance in terms of having the pad be a thing in the R2. So we're working on baking up that version for them, and then not totally sure exactly what will happen to the R2 piece of that, if that will end up coming back to the Planning Commission for furtherness, or if that will just be something that is in hibernation for a little while we see what happens when PAD is implemented in the other commercial zones. Some of you also know that there's an effort that is beginning to get baked up to do long-range regional transportation planning. This is an effort that the city and the county and UDOT have been sort of talking about informally for a couple of years, really. And UDOT finally said, hey, we'll throw some planning energy at it. And they had a sort of a real informal kickoff meeting at the beginning of the week. And that included San Juan County representatives, actually, to really start to think about what kind of long-range planning do we want to do in our area, and what would what's the geographic scope of that? What would that include in terms of transit, active transportation, standard transportation vectors, and also really kind of from a more of a wonky perspective, how do you administer that, right? Like how do you, like on the Wasatch Front, there's the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and they are the organization that is tasked with doing regional transportation planning. We don't really have that in our neck of the woods. You know, there's one in Dixie over in St. George, but in our part of the state, that kind of organization doesn't exist. So how do we form ourselves to do that was also part of the question. So it was like this existential question as well. So, that obviously has significant implications for any sort of planning that we do as a city. So more on that as it develops. The future land use map process has begun, in that there was an initial advisory committee meeting, kickoff meeting yesterday. Very short notice, but because of our time frame here to use this process to address the moratorium on overnight accommodations, they wanted to get going as soon as possible. Commissioner Wells sat in on that one, and Commissioner Marienfeld. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Thank you. And that was great to have your representation there. So there were city council members, planning and zoning from the city, and then from the county council, planning and zoning, and a couple of members of the public and staff. And so that'll be a committee that meets probably 2 or 3 more times at most, but then what's more relevant is the public open houses that are going to happen in a couple of weeks. Those dates are set. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but one's a noon meeting and then one's like a 4 to 6. The 4 to 6 one's on that Tuesday.
And can you send those to us, please?
Oh, for sure. In fact, does it work better? Would it work well to send them out as calendar invites? Do you all do the computer
Email works
calendars?
for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do both, and that way you have it.
Okay.
And then, let me make a note of that. Invites.
Yeah, calendar invite would be great.
Okay. To flip. Okay. So those are going to be happening, like I said, in a couple of weeks, and that'll give Landmark some initial. Well, they're actually doing a whole bunch of work already in terms of technical analysis, but this will get them going. And then really, as you all know, we're on a very relatively tight time frame to get ordinances actually passed with regard to the overnight accommodations piece. So that will really drive a lot of the agenda initially, and then the city is still moving forward with this future land use mapping process, kind of very relatedly, but maybe on a slightly longer time frame, so that we don't have to rush that one as much. But the cool part is the county council agreed to have the county participate in that process, so we could really do it as a valley-wide exercise to the degree that's possible. And Landmark has recent history and current projects with San Juan County and Sitla out there, so they have great knowledge about what's happening in the San Juan County part, so they can bring that to bear and also be helpful in communicating with San Juan County about having them participate to the degree they wish to in this process.
So David, is this focus and scope on overnight rentals, period?
It's not, it's more than
Okay.
that.
Okay.
It's definitely more than that, but the sort of deliverables are being driven by the need to get those ordinances passed. But no, it is broader than that for sure.
Okay. And I know that I won't be able to make any of the daytime meetings, but I would like to see any of you there that can be there for those meetings and those open houses.
Will they always be during the day?
No, the ones that enter in 2 weeks, one is midday and then one's going to be.
No, I mean the advisory committee, excuse me.
Oh, not necessarily.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be. In fact, I would hope that they would check in with everybody's schedules to at least get us.
I would hope that as well, because I was there, but that was just by happenstance. I could take that time. Not normally the case, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I get that. And then also, they will at some point come to this regular meeting and present it to you all, at least I would say a couple of times, ahead of needing to get a formal recommendation from you all to go to the council. So they know about needing to engage at this level, and they're good about that.
And that will, whatever recommendations they have, proposed ordinances, that will all come through us through the normal process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Has to. Yep. For sure. So you will get to enjoy that. Last thing was that Landmark is also in the guts of working on the East Center and West Center small area planning process. And I haven't really been following that one too closely. I just know it's happening. And I'm hearing third hand that the people who are involved in those ends of the West Center and East Center are pretty happy generally about how it's gone. So. But again, small area plans, that'll come to you all for formal recommendation to go to the council at some point. But that's kind of how, in some ways, this is supposed to be done, right? Mm-hmm. Like pick a problem area, pick a challenging area, an area that needs some love, and say, all right, let's stick some consulting efforts on it, and then they do all the weeds work and bring it to you all, and you all say, well, it makes sense, it doesn't make sense, and off it goes. That's what we hope to see happening more. That, I think, is it. Any questions, comments, complaints, compliments?
You do a
Good
great
job.
job.
I never solicit that in my asking for comments. I feel like I've been doing that wrong this whole time.
Too.
Right. Bring it on.
Yeah.
So I kind of regret scheduling the workshop at 5 instead of 5:30, but we do have this extra time that we can't start the meeting till 6. Is there anything else we can do?
Do you want to talk about our priorities again? You want to pivot back to that?
You made a priorities list last time that you were going to.
And I've given that to Summer, and I'm not sure what has happened with that.
I will ask about that. I
Okay.
haven't seen it.
And I do know that Emily's kind of waiting on the land use study and the work that they're being done before we really get moving on things. But as I said, I think there are some things that are out there on the table, and you can help me with this, that we've seen and have been pushed back and that I'd like to see again. And one of them was the parking that we talked about today. There's some kind of parking ordinance out there that
Right.
that I think that we could start discussing again.
Definitely.
Well, just to be clear, it's not an ordinance. It would be another plan of some sort that then you all would give us direction on what you thought we should do in terms of codifying the code.
So I'd like to see that again. What else is out there?
What was your main the first thing you let us?
50-room hotels?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to have to come back from the land use.
For sure.
So those priorities like that are going to have to come from that report and that committee.
Do you know what else that came up the other day? I was hiking near a new development, and I I was hiking on the trail, and, you know, we're gonna be seeing a lot of construction in town, and this is for city staff. What I'm finding is that all this new construction, the contractors do not clean up after themselves.
Are you talking about residential or commercial or both?
Commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah. And I was really upset because you're like, dude, you just, you know, spent $500,000 on a project, and there's construction trash everywhere.
After it's done?
Yeah,
they're done.
after it's done, after it's open, the retaining pond in the back, the soil's already washed off it, so you can just see the pond liner and everything. And I'm like, dude. So is there some kind of mechanism that, dude, clean up after yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple different ways to go about it, but the best way to do that, the best way to get at that would be just quickly document it, either with photos or an email, and send it on probably to Mona to start, because it really would be a code violation.
Oh, it's definitely, it's pretty amazing. I was totally blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
we could address it that way probably pretty quickly. Mona's very good about being on top of that.
Because we're going to see more of that, unfortunately, I think.
I will say, I don't doubt that at all. Chuck is particularly focused on ensuring that we have some consistency with regard to job sites and construction sites. So having that post-completion follow-up be a part of that calculation, a part of that thinking, I get that. That's very important. So just document, send it our way. We'll deal with it.
I'll send pictures.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. That goes out there in the public too. Send pictures. Yeah.
My mom. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Lighting now, it's still the complaint mechanism for the things that are too bright or that don't have the proper shielding or anything like that.
Correct.
I've gotten some just word of mouth complaints about some properties in town that have maybe recently opened that have really exceptionally, just the way that the lights I think are structured or pointed or something. So I haven't had a chance to go check it out myself, but the mechanism is still to code enforcement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a new code enforcement officer, correct?
We do, along with
Oh,
Mona?
you mean on the police side?
We might be on the police.
Yes.
On the police side.
Yes, that's exactly right. Karen de Kruger went over to, she's our new victim advocate, and it was, at least in part of her job to do some enforcement work. So yes, we hired a new officer to do that work. And we're still thinking through, just for what it's worth, as a staff and as a council, I think too, structurally how we do code enforcement, what makes the most sense. A couple of council members have said, well, maybe we should have more people doing code enforcement, because ultimately that's what it will take to be more proactive in some of these cases. So we're still thinking through that, and it's also should they be in the police department? How much of it stays in kind of planning and zoning? And
Oh, one more thing. This is really cool. So today I picked up, I took my my cardboard over to the recycling center, and you know how it's been kind of stuck in our craw for a while. You guys, it was so clean over there. I didn't think I could actually put cardboard over there. The entire thing, there is not a speck of cardboard.
I've heard rumor about that, but I don't want that to be on record.
Okay. It's so clean right now. It's amazing. I mean, everything is so,
Yeah, it is.
it's amazing. And the attitude of the gentleman that I was working with yet today, we just talked for a few minutes, and he was totally on it.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So if you want to pass that on.
And they are accepting paperboard and
Yes.
cartons and things like that.
And they're
again, which
thinking
is
about
nice.
doing a flow and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. So I was totally blown away.
Oh, that's great.
Totally blown away. So, yeah.
So if there's nothing else, I'd like to adjourn the workshop, and then we have to come back together at 6 o'clock, start the meeting. Sorry for this lapse of time, but
It's okay.
Okay, so I'm
Good.
joining the workshop.
With me?
Thank you, everybody.
Quick break.